Good morning and welcome to this morning's reflection. Let us begin by becoming still, by allowing the noise of the day just to settle. I would like today to turn toward the life of Rolle of Hampole, a 14th century hermit, a poet of God, a man seized by divine love. He does not invite us into a tidy spirituality, but rather he draws us into fire, sweetness, and song, into a faith that is felt, burning, and alive. Rolle lived at a time when faith was often expressed through structure, discipline, and obedience. Yet he followed a different path. He studied at Oxford, and he left the academic world behind him and chose the life of a hermit. Not because he rejected the church, but because something within him burned too strongly to be contained. He listened to an inner summons, a summons that others did not always understand. And he reminds us that sometimes the call of God does not arrive politely. Sometimes it interrupts. Sometimes it pulls us away from what is expected toward what is necessary. He speaks about heat, the fire of love. This is not a metaphorical warmth. It's not an emotional enthusiasm, but an actual sensation, a burning in the chest, a fire within the heart. For Rolle, this was the love of God made real in the body. God was not distant, not abstract, not safely contained in ideas. God was near, intimate, and consuming. The heat purified him, burning away indifference, complacency, and half-hearted faith. As we listen, we might gently ask ourselves, where has our faith grown cool? Where has it become only thought, only duty, only habit? What would it mean to ask God to rekindle our fire again? And from this heat, he says, comes sweetness, a deep, quiet joy, not excitement, not pleasure, but a settled delight in simply being with God. He insists that joy is not a reward for holiness, but rather it is a sign of holiness. God does not only command, but God consoles. God delights in his beloved. And so sweetness teaches us that God is not endured, but enjoyed. In a world that often equates seriousness with holiness, he reminds us that love, when it is real, brings joy. Even when life remains hard, even when nothing else changes. And out of this sweetness comes song, an inner music, a harmony that rises when words just fall away. Prayer becomes lyrical, silence becomes full. When love grows too large for language, it begins to sing. And his own written articles circle round and around again and again, circling around God, repeating, lingering and adoring. And here theology becomes praise, and prayer becomes listening. We might ask ourselves, when did prayer last feel like music? When did silence feel alive? At the heart of his spirituality is desire. He does not fear longing, he trusts his longing. For him, desire is not the problem, misdirected desire is. When the heart turns toward God, desire becomes the path itself. He begins not with perfection, but with longing. Not with achievement, but with love, reaching for love. And this is good news. It means we do not need to be ready or pure or resolved. We need only willing desire for God. A willing desire for God more than we desire safety. He chose solitude not to escape the world, but to listen. Silence became the place where fire was tended, where sweetness was noticed, where song could be heard. Yet his solitude bore fruit for others. His writings were gifts for those longing for God in ordinary lives. And he reminds us that without silence, love struggles to deepen. His intensity often unsettled people. His experiences were questioned and his independence was criticized. Deep love often makes other people uneasy. Yet he remained faithful not to approval, but to the truth of what he had been given. And so he speaks powerfully to our time, to a world weary, distracted and cautious. He says, God is still fire, God is still sweetness, and God still sings. The question is not whether God desires us, but whether we dare to desire God in return. Richard Rolle invites us beyond cool belief into burning love, beyond duty into delight, beyond words into song. May we have the courage to ask for fire, the humility to receive sweetness, and the patience to listen until our lives begin to sing again. Amen.